Hey folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here. And I'm going live today because normally every Thursday I put out a new section of our uh, fraud prevention series. But I am getting so many phone calls and emails about owner operators getting scammed by carriers or carriers who are having problems with their owner operator program, leading to freight guards. So I want to rehash some of the information that we had put out on part 9 so that we can clear the air on a couple of different matters and try to clarify things for most carriers and owner operators that are out there at large. Because this is becoming a big problem. Errors are causing freight guards to be thrown out, and it can be a huge headache. So let's get to it, but not before a word from our sponsors at AccuBid Pro.
Do you know your cost per mile? Have you been hitting your profit margins? Do you struggle with bidding in a way that is both profitable and competitive? Would it be worth it to have all this information right in front of you? By calculating your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro helps you stay profitable in an industry still struggling to recover. In order to calculate your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro asks you questions about your business expenses. Our goal is to help you understand what you need to keep operating in order to keep up with the game and maintain your business. Enter your origin and destination, and we show you what you should bid based on your personal cost per mile in order to be profitable, even including a more detailed breakdown of each bid. Download the app today and get your 30-day free trial of AccuBid Pro, available on the App Store and Google Play. Bid smarter, bid faster, bid better with AccuBid Pro.
So let's get into first the reasons why we're doing all this. We have had, like I said, a ton of phone calls about people with questions regarding owner operators and how they're supposed to operate within the confines of the law. Well, that regulation rests in 49 CFR 376. So any owner operator or carrier who works with owner operators must be intimately familiar with this specific regulation. I'll go ahead and repeat that. 49 CFR 376, specifically 376.12, because this lists all the requirements under the regulation for owner operators versus carriers. Why this is important: we are seeing tons of reports coming in of bad carriers scamming owner operators, and we're seeing tons of reports of owner operators who are not, carriers who are not running their program flawlessly. They may have one or two provisions of the law where they're not in perfect alignment. And as a result, there are brokers who are using a very strict interpretation of the law and then accusing these carriers of giving loads to owner operators as double brokering instead of, well, dispatching. So that is where this all comes in. So we want to go ahead and clarify some of these points as we go here. So first and foremost, if you are an owner operator working with a carrier, it is called exclusive use. You sign a contract to lease on to a carrier, whether you have your own authority or not, you are required to run under the authority of that carrier only. You cannot sit there and wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to book a load on my own authority and my carrier can just wait until tomorrow. It doesn't work that way, guys. You have to run under that one authority. That's it. End of story. One authority and done. If you try operating under two authorities, you are now gaming the system and you're in violation. So you can't do that. For owner operators, we're seeing a lot of owner operators who try to lease on to a carrier because that owner operator's own authority is so new, they can't get any work out on the spot market. And this is a large trend going on. It is an accepted trend. So brokers, you are going to start seeing owner operators leased on to legitimate carriers who may have their own, where the owner operator has their own authority as well. Now, the way this is legal is if the owner operator has their own authority on their own insurance, and that insurance is minimum requirements, etc. Basically enough to maintain the authority. However, that owner operator must carry the signage of the carrier they work for, as well as having a copy of the contract of the carrier they work for and the COI, all sitting in the truck. That is extremely important. And it's important for two reasons. One, you need to make sure that the cargo is properly insured. If the cargo is properly insured, meaning the insurance is covered by the carrier's own insurance policy, the owner operator can't use their own policy for their authority that is not being run under. They can't use that as justification of insurance coverage for what the carrier they're leased onto is doing. Whoever owns the authority under which the driver is operating must carry the insurance, and that is for vehicle liability as well as cargo insurance. For things like bobtail insurance, it needs to be addressed in the contract between the carrier and the owner operator as to who covers that. But the liability and the cargo must be carried by the carrier's insurance policy. And the owner operator must have a copy of the COI with their VIN number in their truck with them as proof of insurance. This particular issue is causing a lot of carriers a lot of trouble because they think that if the owner operator has their own insurance, that all they got to do is list the carrier as additionally insured and everything's good. Well, no, it does not work that way. If that situation were to occur and then the owner operator had a vehicle accident, it is a high probability that the cargo itself would not be covered. So brokers have a legitimate gripe when it comes to owner operators having their own insurance and listing the carrier as additionally insured. So carriers, if you run the owner operator model, your entire fleet, all of your owner operators must be on your policy. I cannot stress that enough. Now, for the guys who are getting scammed, the owner operators being scammed by carriers, a lot of that is done through the insurance arena as well. I've said before that you need to make sure that the carrier is providing insurance to the owner operator. Well, it's incumbent upon the owner operators to double check to make sure that their trucks are actually covered. Here's a neat little trick that every owner operator needs to know. That COI that your carrier provides for you is only valid on the date that it is issued. So if it was issued 3 months ago, the very next day, your carrier could have canceled that. You don't know that. You won't know that. So I strongly repeat my recommendation to all owner operators. Check your insurance policy and at least once per week, call the insurance agent and pull another COI to make sure that your equipment is still being insured. I say this only because we are seeing tons and tons of incidents of insurance fraud going on where carriers are canceling owner-operator policies without the owner-operator knowing in an attempt to save money. Well, that's bad juju and that's fraud. So we need to try to prevent that. So now that I've gone into the why I chose to do it this way, hopefully everyone understands how this is playing out. But we're going to go back through the material from this section very briefly. And if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comments and I'll answer that as we go. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start advancing these slides. Owner operators are independent truck drivers, as we well know. They own the equipment, and In most cases, they don't have their own authority. Sometimes they do, and they're leased on for the purposes of maturing their own authority. And that is legal. There is nothing wrong with that. However, again, exclusive use applies. It is important that the owner operator is running only under the MC of the carrier to which they are leased onto. Carriers are companies that possess the authority and the equipment with company trucks and or owner operators. Very simple definitions right there. I mean, it's kind of interesting how in this industry we mix owner operator and carrier and make them synonymous. They're not. Use the right terminology, folks. Okay, so for the owner operators, when they're trying to be recruited, that's usually done over social media. I don't know how many posts I've seen out on Facebook, Reddit, wherever, of guys who own trucks who don't have their own authorities or have young authorities looking to lease on to a carrier. That's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with that. However, that is also where the door opens for fraudulent carriers who seek out new owner operators in order to manipulate them and abuse them so that they can make money off of them. That is a huge problem in this industry. And one of the things that everyone needs to understand is vetting is important. It is absolutely critical that anyone, especially a carrier or an owner operator, vets each other before signing a lease. You got to do the deep dive. You got to understand what the different responsibilities are in the contract. So you want the contract ahead of time. And I'm getting tons of texts and all about this broadcast. I am loving it, especially from a couple of scam carriers who don't like me talking about them. Check out for reviews. Look at the carrier's reputation. That will give you an indication as to whether or not you want to consider even partnering with that carrier. If they have a bad reputation online, odds are they've done something that's screwy. Whether or not that reputation online is earned, because we all know when somebody has a bad day, the first thing they do is they jump online and they make some kind of review or comment. And I get that, but all of those frustrated, angry comments have at least an element of truth to it. Take it with a grain of salt, but there's an element of truth. Read your contract. Please read the contract. If you don't read the contract that you're signing, then you have no idea what the heck you're committing yourself to. You could be committing yourself to paying the guy $5,000 for the use of his authority, and he's locking you into a 20-year agreement. You don't know. Read the contract. Know what you're getting into. And I'll tell you another thing. When you're going over that contract, look at it with an attorney, because that attorney's going to spot stuff that perhaps you may not. It is worth it to hire an attorney just to go over a contract. I also ask for references anytime I'm dealing with a contract. Carriers, when you're signing on with a new broker for the first time, they may ask you for references. Well, if I were an owner operator signing on with a carrier, I would ask for references. I want to talk to a couple other drivers who have run with that carrier, both past and present. I want to know why they're not with them anymore if they're in the past. And I want to know how often they pay. I want to be able to make sure that current drivers aren't having any problems with them. Ask for references and follow them up. I also ask broker friends to check Carrier 411 and Highway and other stuff to see if a carrier has any comments in there as well. That's always a good thing to check. So when you're looking at these contracts, again, insurance is absolutely vital. You absolutely must watch out for this. Man, I'm having trouble with the slides today. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So look into these contracts. Insurance is huge. Make sure that the carrier, if the carrier charges a premium for coverage on the policy, ask them, hey, what are the policy limits? Ask questions. That's what this all is all about. ask questions, vet it. Would rather an owner operator make a carrier feel uncomfortable by forcing them to review their procedures in excruciating detail so that the owner operator knows exactly what they're getting into. If you're getting paid on a percentage basis, which most owner operators are, it's usually, a 30-70 split, 40-60 split, depending on whatever. And that should be specified in the contract. But if it's a split, the law requires that the carrier provides the rate confirmation, a copy of the rate confirmation to the owner operator. Is that happening? Are you getting that copy of the rate confirmation? When it comes to the insurance, does the carrier cover both cargo and liability? Again, that is a federal requirement. The carrier is supposed to cover those things. They may sit there and have you as an owner operator pay a premium for it. That's legal. But that coverage must be listed on the carrier's own policy, not the owner operator's policy. Are there any fees associated with it? Look for fees for missing appointments or being late or early to an appointment. Are there fees for bad conduct? I've started seeing that in contracts these days. Are there any startup costs that have to be endured? An ELD unit typically costs about $800. Well, it did a couple of years ago. I don't know how much it costs today. But does the owner operator end up paying for that? Is it paid out up in front? Is it paid out over time? All of these things should be specified in a contract. How are fuel cards dealt with? Is fuel prepaid by the owner operator, or is a fuel card provided by the carrier? There's a lot of different things to juggle when it comes to these issues. Closing fees, if there are any contract termination fees that are involved, because let's face it, contracts may not be worth very much for somebody. Owner operators not working as hard as they think they should. They think they can do better somewhere else. Is there a cancellation clause, or are you locked in for a specific period of time? And if you're locked in for a specific period of time, is there a contract termination fee? A lot of these scammers that we're seeing who use predatory contracts against owner operators are essentially saying that, okay, we've got all these different fees peppered in throughout the contract that if you don't read the contract, you're not going to see. And something just happened here. Okay, sorry about that. My cat jumped up on my keyboard. You got to love live stuff. So you have all these fees peppered into the contract, and you suddenly decide, you know what, I don't like doing this. I don't like this. I think this is a bad idea. Well, is there an early contract termination fee? So what these guys are doing, they've got all these fees peppered through, and then suddenly the carrier or the owner operator learns that the carrier is not going to pay him after a couple of weeks because all these fees are front loaded, or they're absolutely massive in size, and it basically negates all the work that the owner operator did for those 2 weeks. So the owner operator is like, you know what, screw this. I don't want to be treated like a slave or anything. So they decide to get out. Well, is there a hidden fee in there about termination clauses? And we're seeing this among scamming carriers where they put in a $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 termination fee if you kill your contract early. And if they ended up owing you money at some point, now they'll sit there and say, well, because of this contract termination fee, I'm keeping everything that was owed to you. And that's how they're getting away with it. Read the contracts. Cannot specify that enough. Read the contracts. Now, for due diligence, if you are a carrier and you're doing due diligence, that's basically done through the building of the driver qualification file. The driver qualification file, or DQF as it's referred to, has the driver's license, MVR, all the pertinent information that you need for a carrier when DOT comes knocking on the door to do an audit. Pre-employment drug screens. Are they in a drug testing consortium? Are they filed? I mean, all the different requirements that exist there. If the carrier should know what is required in a DQF if you're going to have a carrier authority. But yeah, consortium info, equipment info. If they have any other special credentials like a hazmat certification or a TWIC card or a TSA card, all of that stuff should be in the driver qualification file. But it's not just the driver, or sorry, the carrier who does owner. Can't talk today. It's not just the carrier who does due diligence. It is also the owner operator who needs to do diligence on the carrier. Take a look at the MC in Safer, as we mentioned before. Look at Google reviews, check social media, and again, my favorite, get references. References are a huge freaking help. So you please inform followers that are owner operators and lease onto other carriers that they need to make sure that the carrier adds them as a driver to their policy. Many don't. Absolutely right. I have made that comment earlier today, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this live, is because the carrier must carry the driver on the insurance policy as well. So if you are an owner operator, when you are double checking the policy on a weekly basis, like I'm recommending, yeah, make sure that your name is also on the policy. Thank you very much for pointing that out. So as a cautionary tale, you know, I've mentioned before that we have seen quite a few carriers that are being accused of being predatory towards owner operators, whether it's hidden agendas embedded into the contract, no contract at all, okay, or something along those lines. Guys, if you're leasing on with somebody, there has to be a contract. Same thing as if you're getting a dispatcher. If you're getting a dispatcher, there has to be a contract. Handshakes don't work anymore, okay, because that contract by law is required to have certain elements in there. Whether you're a dispatcher or a carrier bringing on owner operators, or if you're going to be working for, if you're a carrier working for a broker, there should always be a contract. It must be memorialized in writing. Because if you don't have that, then the other side can come back and say, no, we're not going to do this because we don't have a contract. And they'll get away with it in court. Okay, so you have to pay attention and protect yourself. But that's what a contract is for. Is it a pain in the tail? Yes, but it is so worth it. Oh no, well, I did not mention drivers are being listed on the COI, but that is absolutely true. The drivers do need to be listed. So thank you very much for bringing up that comment. I do appreciate it. So in these cautionary tales, I can tell you right now, there are several carriers right now that you should avoid if you are an owner operator. I've got it posted throughout my social media, so I'm not going to rehash that here, but pay attention to who you are partnering with. It is a partnership. It is a partnership based on mutual beneficial impact. And if there is no mutual beneficial impact, then you don't want to be in that partnership. It truly is that simple. If you run into a situation where you think you are being scammed by your carrier as an owner operator, or you are needing some help in trying to select a carrier, if you're an owner operator that you want to work under, feel free to reach out to us. We can try to help you out. Master Dispatcher just tossed something in here. Can you talk about the power of attorney in this relationship? Oh my gosh. Okay, when it comes to power of attorney, how do I phrase this? I'll be perfectly honest. I have rarely ever seen a power of attorney in an owner-operator carrier contract. However, it is good to have because the carrier serves as a dispatcher to the owner-operator. So that is a good thing to have. However, it is not a requirement. It is, however, a requirement if you are a dispatcher servicing a carrier. You need to have that power of attorney from the carrier to tell to declare that the dispatcher is authorized to book loads in that carrier's name. So thank you for bringing that up, Master Dispatcher. That is an important point to come out with. Unless anyone else has any other comments they want to throw out here, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Here is the information that you need if you run into a jam. You can always reach me, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, at jcantera@vigilanttransport.com. You can also reach me on my podcast email, which is jcantera@stopthescampodcast.com. I'm happy to help at any time. Remember, I'm not an attorney. I just happen to have to act like one from time to time. In the meantime, please make sure that you like and subscribe so you can get more info as we post it, whether it's here, LinkedIn, Facebook, Reddit, X, etc. And please, please, please make sure you also check out our regular weekly podcast on Mondays, 5 p.m. Central, Stop the Scam. We always bring on guests to talk about different elements of fraud within the industry. I will say that this coming week, the 24th, we will be taking the day off. My wife's having surgery, so I'm not going to be here. And my co-host is on vacation, so she's not going to be around. So no show for this coming week. But I will be at Matt's. So I'll be looking forward to meeting my fans over at Matt's as we go produce content over there in March. If y'all have any questions, again, don't be afraid to hit me up. And whatever you do, I got to make sure I pull up the right banner here because y'all hear me say this if you watch my show all the time. Don't let scammers take you for a ride. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you again next week.